The courtroom smelled of old wood and despair. But Sarah Cole stood tall, her wrists bound in cold steel. She'd raised 5 boys, none her own, from the ashes of a world that had discarded them. Now, as the gavel echoed, 3 of those boys faced a truth that could tear them apart or save her life. In the heart of rural Tennessee, Sarah's life had never been easy. A foster mother with a heart too big for her crumbling farmhouse. She'd taken in 5 boys over a decade ago, each one abandoned. Each one broken in his own way. There was Ethan, the eldest, with his sharp wit and guarded heart. Lucas, whose quiet strength hid a storm of emotions. Caleb, the dreamer who painted the world in colors no one else could see. Noah, whose laughter could light up the darkest nights. And Jamie, the youngest, whose defiance masked a desperate need for love. They were her boys, her family, pieced together from the wreckage of a system that had failed them. Sarah had no money, no status, just a stubborn belief that love could heal. She worked double shifts at the local diner, her hands calloused from scrubbing floors and her heart bruised from the judgments of a small town that whispered about her unnatural family. But the boys thrived under her care. They grew from scared kids into young men, each carving out a place in a world that didn't always want them. Ethan became a mechanic, his hands steady as he fixed engines and his own fractured trust. Lucas studied to be a nurse, his gentle touch a contrast to the fists he'd once dodged. Caleb's art began to sell, his canvases bursting with the pain and beauty of their shared past. Noah found work as a carpenter, building homes as sturdy as the hopes Sarah had given him. And Jamie, still finding his way, poured his restless energy into music, his guitar a voice for the words he couldn't say. But the past has a way of clawing its way back. 2 years ago, a fire had ripped through their town, destroying a warehouse owned by a powerful local businessman, Robert Hargrove. The blaze was ruled arson, and evidence flimsy, circumstantial, but damning pointed to Sarah. Hargrove, a man with deep pockets and deeper grudges, had never liked Sarah or her boys. He'd called them trouble, misfits, a stain on the town. When Sarah was arrested, the town turned on her, eager to believe the worst. The trial was swift, the verdict brutal. Sarah faced the death penalty for a crime she swore she didn't commit. Now, in the courtroom, the boys sat in the front row, their eyes locked on Sarah. The air was thick with tension, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down. 3 of them, Ethan, Caleb, and Jamie, had come out as gay in the years since they'd left Sarah's home. A revelation that had shocked the conservative town and fueled Hargrove's campaign against her. He'd spun a narrative that Sarah's influence had corrupted them, that her unconventional family was a threat. The boys knew the truth. Sarah had given them the courage to be themselves, to love without fear, even when the world pushed back. Ethan stood first, his voice steady but his hands trembling as he addressed the judge. "She saved us," he said, his words cutting through the murmurs of the courtroom. "You want to know who we are? We're hers, and we're not letting her go without a fight." The story of Sarah and her boys was one of love against all odds, but it was also a story of secrets, betrayal, and a town's hypocrisy. As the trial unfolded, the boys would uncover truths about the fire, about Hargrove, and about each other that would test their bond. For Sarah, it was a fight for her life. For the boys, it was a fight for the only mother they'd ever known and for the right to love who they chose, no matter the cost. The first day of the trial was a blur of cold legal jargon and hotter emotions. Ethan took the lead, as he always had, organizing the boys to dig into the case. He'd never trusted Hargrove, Not since the man had tried to buy their farmhouse years ago, offering Sarah a pittance and a smirk. Ethan's gut told him the fire was no accident, and Sarah was no arsonist. He remembered the night it happened. Sarah had been home with them, cooking dinner, her laughter filling the kitchen as Jamie strummed his guitar. The timeline didn't add up, but the prosecution's evidence was relentless. A gas can with Sarah's fingerprints, a witness who claimed to see her near the warehouse, and a motive tied to a years-old feud with Hargrove. Lucas, the quiet one, spent hours poring over legal documents, his nursing studies giving him a knack for detail. He found inconsistencies in the witness's story. A neighbor who'd always resented Sarah's outspokenness. Caleb, meanwhile, used his art to cope, sketching Sarah's face in the courtroom, capturing the defiance in her eyes. Noah and Jamie were restless, their anger barely contained. Noah wanted to confront Hargrove directly, his carpenter's hands itching to break something. Jamie, younger and more impulsive, wrote songs about rebellion, his lyrics sharp with the pain of watching Sarah suffer. The boys coming out had complicated everything. Ethan had told Sarah first, 3 years ago, his voice shaking as he admitted he loved a man named David, a co-worker at the garage. Sarah had hugged him, her eyes wet with pride, not judgment. Caleb came next, his paintings revealing his truth before he could say it aloud. His boyfriend Marcus a quiet presence at his side. Jamie's revelation was the loudest, announced in a bar one night after too many drinks. His defiance aimed at a town that had never accepted him. Sarah had been their rock through it all, but now her love for them was being weaponized, twisted into something ugly by Hargrove and his allies. As the trial wore on, the boys began to unravel the threads of Hargrove's influence. Ethan tracked down a former employee of the warehouse, a nervous man named Tom who hinted at shady dealings, insurance fraud, maybe, or something darker. Lucas found a discrepancy in the fire report, a detail about the accelerant that didn't match the prosecution's claims. Caleb's sketches caught the eye of a local journalist, a woman named Lena who began digging into Hargrove's past. Noah and Jamie, less patient, started asking questions around town, stirring up trouble but also unearthing whispers of Hargrove's enemies. Sarah, from her cell, urged them to be careful. "You're my heart," she told them during a visit, her voice steady despite the bars between them. "But don't let this break you." Her strength fueled them, but it also tore at them. They'd already lost, so much could they lose her too. By the end of the first 1,000 words, the stage was set, a family forged in love, a town steeped in prejudice, and a mystery that could either save Sarah or destroy them all. The boys knew the fight was just beginning, and the truths they'd uncover would change everything. The courtroom buzzed with tension as the second week of Sarah's trial began. The prosecution painted her as a reckless woman, a foster mother who'd raised troubled boys and sparked chaos in their quiet town. But the boys saw through the lies, their resolve hardening with every word slung against her. Ethan took charge, his mechanic's precision now aimed at dismantling the case. He met Tom, the former warehouse employee, in a diner on the edge of town. Tom's hands shook as he sipped his coffee, his eyes darting to the door. "Hargrove's not clean," he whispered. "That warehouse, insured for millions. Fire was convenient." Ethan pressed for more, but Tom clammed up, scared of Hargrove's reach. Still, it was a crack in the story that Ethan could pry open. Lucas, meanwhile, dug deeper into the fire report. The accelerant, supposedly gasoline, didn't match the burn patterns described by the fire chief. Lucas had spent nights studying chemistry for his nursing degree, and something felt off. He tracked down the fire chief, a gruff man named Bill who'd known Sarah for years. Bill was hesitant but admitted the investigation had been rushed, pressured by Hargrove's influence. They wanted a scapegoat. He muttered. Sarah was easy. Caleb's sketches were gaining attention, thanks to Lena, the journalist. She published a piece online, pairing Caleb's courtroom drawings with a story about Sarah's life, how she'd taken in boys no one else wanted, how she'd fought for them despite the town's scorn. The article went viral on local forums, stirring sympathy for Sarah and suspicion about Hargrove. Caleb, usually shy, felt a spark of purpose. He started painting again. His latest piece, a portrait of Sarah surrounded by the boys, their faces glowing with love and defiance. Noah and Jamie were less subtle. Noah confronted a group of Hargrove's workers at a bar, his broad shoulders and calloused hands intimidating enough to loosen tongues. One worker, drunk and bitter, let slip that Hargrove had been in debt before the fire, desperate for cash. Jamie, meanwhile, poured his rage into a new song, performing it at an open mic night. The lyrics were raw, accusing the town of betraying Sarah, and the crowd, mostly younger locals, cheered their support, a small but growing rebellion. The boys coming out added fuel to the town's division. Ethan's relationship with David was now public, and whispers followed him everywhere. Caleb and Marcus faced slurs painted on their apartment door. But Marcus, a law student, urged Caleb to stay focused. Jamie, still reeling from his own coming out, found solace in a new friend. Alex, a bartender who listened to his music and shared his own story of coming out in a small town. Sarah had taught them to be proud, but pride came with a cost in a place like this. Sarah, in her cell, was fading. The boys saw it during visits. Her eyes were still fierce, but her body was weaker, the stress of the trial eating at her. She never complained, but she worried about them. You're stirring up trouble, she told Noah, her voice soft but firm. Hargrove's dangerous. Noah nodded, but his jaw was set. He'd build 1,000 houses before he let Hargrove take her. The boys began to connect the dots. Ethan and Lucas found a paper trail, insurance documents that showed Hargrove's warehouse was overinsured, a payout that had saved his failing business. Lena, the journalist, uncovered a link between Hargrove and the witness who'd placed Sarah at the scene, a cousin with a rap sheet and a sudden influx of cash. Caleb's art became a rallying cry, his latest exhibit drawing crowds who left donations for Sarah's defense. Noah and Jamie, reckless but determined, tailed one of Hargrove's men, catching him meeting a shady figure late at night. As the trial's second phase closed, the boys faced a choice: play it safe and hope the legal system worked, or push harder, risking everything to expose Hargrove. Ethan, the leader, knew safety wasn't an option. We're her sons, he told the others, their hands clasped in a circle outside the courthouse. We fight for her, no matter what. The mystery deepened. The stakes climbed, and the boys' love for Sarah and each other grew fiercer. They were no longer just fighting for her life, but for the truth about who they were, in a town that wanted to silence them. The Tennessee air grew colder as the trial dragged into its third week, mirroring the chill in the boys' hearts. Sarah's fate hung by a thread, and the courtroom felt like a battlefield where love clashed with lies. The boys, once broken kids, were now warriors for the woman who'd given them everything. Ethan's investigation took a dangerous turn. He and Lucas met Tom again, this time in an empty parking lot at midnight. Tom, chain smoking, revealed that Hargrove had pressured him to stay quiet about the warehouse's faulty wiring, known fire hazards that were never fixed. He wanted the insurance money, Tom said, his voice low. Sarah was just collateral. When Ethan asked for proof, Tom hesitated, then slipped him a USB drive with old maintenance records. "Don't get me killed," he muttered before vanishing into the dark. Lucas pored over the records, his eyes burning from lack of sleep. The documents confirmed the warehouse's wiring issues, contradicting the arson narrative. He shared them with Lena, who was building a case against Hargrove for her next article. But the deeper they dug, the more dangerous it became. Lucas noticed a black SUV tailing him on his way home, its tinted windows hiding the driver. He didn't tell the others, not wanting to worry them, but his hands shook as he locked his apartment door. Caleb's art was now a weapon. His latest exhibit, held in a community center, drew hundreds, including allies from nearby cities. Each painting told a piece of their story: Sarah's tired smile, Ethan's clenched fists, Jamie's guitar. One piece, a mural of 5 boys holding hands under a stormy sky, had a title scrawled beneath it: "Family Forged in Fire." The donations poured in, enough to hire a private investigator, Maria, who specialized in corporate fraud. Maria confirmed Hargrove's financial troubles and hinted at ties to a local politician who'd pushed the arson charge. Noah and Jamie's recklessness nearly cost them. Following Hargrove's man led them to a seedy bar where they overheard talk of a cleanup job tied to the fire. Before they could learn more, 2 men cornered them in an alley, warning them to back off. Noah's fists clenched, but Jamie, thinking of Sarah's plea to be careful, pulled him away. The encounter left them shaken but more determined. They told Ethan, who decided it was time to confront Hargrove directly, not with fists, but with evidence. The boys' personal lives strained under the pressure. Ethan and David argued, David begging Ethan to stop chasing danger. "I love you, but I can't lose you," David said, his voice breaking. Ethan promised to be careful, but his heart was with Sarah. Caleb and Marcus faced harassment, their car tires slashed one night. Marcus, ever calm, held Caleb as he cried, vowing to fight beside him. Jamie and Alex grew closer, their late-night talks a refuge from the chaos. But Jamie struggled with guilt, feeling he wasn't doing enough for Sarah. Sarah's strength wavered. During a visit, she looked thinner, her voice softer. "I'm proud of you," she told them, her eyes lingering on each boy. "But this fight's tearing you apart." Caleb broke down, promising to save her. Sarah smiled, but her eyes held funnet for herself. But for them. Maria, the investigator, uncovered a bombshell: Hargrove's cousin, the witness, had been paid through an offshore account. The USB drive's records, combined with Lena's reporting, pointed to a cover-up. The boys planned to present this in court, but Hargrove's influence loomed large. The politician, a state senator, had sway over the judge, and rumors swirled that evidence was being suppressed. As the 3rd week ended, the boys stood outside the courthouse, the USB drive burning a hole in Ethan's pocket. They were close to cracking the case, but the danger was closer too. The black SUV appeared again, idling across the street. Ethan met his brother's eyes, his voice steady. "We're not just fighting for Sarah. We're fighting for us, for who we are." The trial was no longer just about arson. It was about a family's right to exist, to love, to be seen. The boys were ready to risk everything, but the cost of truth was steeper than they'd imagined. The courtroom's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on Sarah's face as the trial entered its fourth week. The boys felt the weight of time slipping away, each day a step closer to a verdict that could end her life. But their fight was gaining ground, and the truth was clawing its way to the surface. Ethan and Lucas handed the USB drive to Maria, the private investigator, who cross-referenced the warehouse records with Hargrove's financials. The evidence was damning. Hargrove had falsified reports to hide the warehouse's safety violations, pocketing maintenance funds while the building decayed. The fire, Maria suspected, was no accident. It was a calculated move to cash in on insurance. Sarah's fingerprints on the gas can, planted, likely, by someone in Hargrove's pocket. Maria warned the boys, this goes higher than Hargrove. Be ready for pushback. Lena's latest article hit like a thunderbolt, detailing Hargrove's fraud and naming the state senator, Clara Vance, as a potential accomplice. The piece spread across social media, amplified by Caleb's art and Jamie's music. Locals who'd once shunned Sarah began to question the narrative, their whispers turning to demands for justice. But Hargrove fought back, his lawyer discrediting Lena as a radical and the boys as unstable. The town's old prejudices flared, targeting the boys' identities. Ethan overheard slurs at the garage. Caleb found hate mail at his studio, and Jamie's open mic was heckled by Hargrove's cronies. Noah, restless, took matters into his own hands. He and Jamie staked out Hargrove's office, watching for anything suspicious. Late one night, they saw the senator's aide slip inside, leaving with a briefcase. Noah wanted to follow, but Jamie, remembering their alley scare, stopped him. We need proof, not trouble, Jamie said, his voice steadier than his shaking hands. They told Maria, who traced the aide to a meeting with a known Fixera man tied to evidence tampering in other cases. Caleb's art became a beacon. His latest piece, a portrait of Sarah with 5 stars above her, each representing a boy, was displayed at a rally outside the courthouse. Hundreds showed up, holding signs that read "Free Sarah" and "Love is not a crime." Caleb spoke, his voice trembling but clear. She taught us to be ourselves, no matter what this town thinks. We won't let her die for it. Marcus stood beside him, proud, as the crowd cheered. The rally drew national attention, putting pressure on the judge to reconsider the suppressed evidence. Personal struggles simmered. Ethan and David reconciled, David joining the fight by organizing community support. Lucas, haunted by the SUV tailing him, confided in Noah, who promised to watch his back. Jamie and Alex shared a quiet moment at the bar, their hands brushing as Jamie admitted his fear of losing Sarah. You're stronger than you know, Alex said, and Jamie believed him, if only for a moment. Sarah's health declined. During a visit, she coughed, her face pale. You're my legacy, she told them, her voice barely above a whisper. Don't let hate win. The boys left the jail in silence, their resolve steeling. Ethan rallied them. We've got the evidence. We've got the people. Now we bring it to court. Maria and Lena prepared to present the USB drive's records, but Hargrove's team moved to block it, claiming it was inadmissible. The judge, under pressure from Vance, seemed inclined to agree. Lucas, desperate, contacted Bill, the fire chief, who agreed to testify about the rushed investigation. It was a risk. Bill could lose his job, but he owed Sarah for years of kindness. As the fourth week closed, the boys stood on the courthouse steps, the rally's energy pulsing behind them. The USB drive, Bill's testimony, and Lena's reporting were their weapons. But Hargrove's power loomed large. The black SUV was back. Closer now. A reminder of the danger they faced. Ethan looked at his brothers. Their faces a mix of fear and fire. "For Sarah," he said, and they nodded, ready to fight to the end. The trial's 5th week was a crucible, testing the boys' courage as the courtroom became a stage for truth and deception. Sarah's life hung in the balance, and the boys felt the weight of every choice they'd made. The evidence was mounting, but so was the danger, and the town was splitting apart. Maria presented the USB drive in court, her voice steady as she detailed Hargrove's fraud. The maintenance records showed years of neglected repairs, and financial documents proved the insurance payout had saved his empire. The prosecution objected, calling the evidence speculative. But the judge, swayed by the rally's public pressure, allowed it. Bill, the fire chief, took the stand. His testimony a bombshell. The arson investigation had been manipulated, with key reports altered to pin the blame on Sarah. The courtroom buzzed, and Hargrove's calm facade cracked, his eyes darting to Senator Vance in the gallery. Lena's articles kept the pressure on, her latest piece exposing Vance's ties to Hargrove's business. The senator's aide, caught on camera by Noah and Jamie, was linked to the fixer, suggesting evidence tampering. The story went national, with news outlets picking up Caleb's art and the boys' fight. The hashtag #FreeSarah trended, and donations poured in, funding a top defense lawyer, Rachel, who tore into the prosecution's weak case. Rachel cross-examined the witness, Hargrove's cousin, who crumbled under pressure, admitting he'd been paid to lie about seeing Sarah. The boys' personal lives frayed under the strain. Ethan and David worked late, planning strategy, but Ethan's obsession with saving Sarah left little room for their relationship. Lucas, haunted by the SUV, barely slept, his nursing studies forgotten. Caleb and Marcus faced escalating threats graffiti on their studio. Anonymous calls, but Marcus's legal knowledge kept them grounded. Jamie and Alex grew closer, Alex joining the rally with a sign that read "Love Wins." Jamie's music, now streaming online, became an anthem for their cause, his voice raw with pain and hope. Sarah's condition worsened. During a visit, she collapsed, coughing blood. The boys demanded medical care, but the jail's doctor was dismissive, citing budget cuts. Lucas, with his nursing background, recognized signs of pneumonia. He begged the judge for a hospital transfer, his voice breaking as he described Sarah's decline. The judge agreed, but the delay cost Sarah strength. In the hospital, she gripped their hands, her eyes fierce. "You're enough," she whispered. "You've always been enough." The boys pushed harder. Noah and Jamie, against Ethan's warnings, followed the fixer to a warehouse outside town. They recorded a conversation implicating Hargrove in the fire's planning, but the fixer spotted them. A chase ensued, Noah's truck barely outrunning the SUV. They escaped, shaken, and handed the recording to Maria, who passed it to Rachel. The evidence was risky, obtained illegally, but Rachel found a way to use it, arguing it showed Hargrove's pattern of corruption. The town was a powder keg. Supporters rallied daily, but Hargrove's allies fought back, spreading lies about Sarah and the boys. Ethan faced a brick through his garage window, with a note, "Back off or else." Caleb's studio was vandalized, his mural defaced. Jamie's open mic was shut down by a permit issue, orchestrated by Vance's office. But the boys refused to break, their love for Sarah and each other a shield against hate. As the 5th week ended, Rachel prepared a motion to dismiss the charges, citing the new evidence and public support. The judge hesitated. Vance's influence still strong. The boys stood outside the hospital, watching Sarah through a window, her frail form a reminder of what was at stake. Ethan spoke for them all. We're not just saving her. We're saving who we are. The trial was nearing its climax, and the truth was close, but so was the danger, lurking in every shadow. The 6th week of the trial was a storm of revelations, with the courtroom packed and the town on edge. Sarah's hospital bed was a stark reminder of time running out, and the boys fought with everything they had, their love for her a fire that refused to die. The evidence was piling up, but Hargrove's power was a wall they couldn't yet break. Rachel, the defense lawyer, presented the fixer's recording in court, carefully framing it as anonymously sourced to skirt legal issues. The audio was grainy but clear, Hargrove's voice, discussing the fire as a solution to his debts. The courtroom erupted, spectators whispering as Hargrove's lawyers scrambled to discredit it. The judge, under pressure from national media and the Free Sarah movement, allowed the recording as circumstantial evidence, a crack in Hargrove's armor. Rachel followed with Bill's testimony and the USB drive, painting a picture of a desperate man who'd framed Sarah to save himself. Lena's reporting reached new heights, her latest piece linking Senator Vance to a network of corrupt deals, with Hargrove at the center. The article included Caleb's art, his mural, now a symbol of resistance, shared across the country. Protesters gathered daily, their signs demanding justice, their voices echoing Jamie's songs. The boys became local heroes, their story of love and loyalty resonating far beyond Tennessee. But heroism came with a cost. Ethan's garage was firebombed, a warning that left his tools in ashes. He stood in the wreckage, David at his side, vowing to rebuild. Lucas, battling exhaustion, worked with Maria to trace the offshore account that paid Hargrove's cousin. They found a paper trail leading to Vance's campaign funds, a bombshell that could topple her. Lucas faced his own fears, the SUV still tailing him. But he confided in Noah, who promised to protect him. Noah and Jamie, shaken by their chase, stayed closer to home, helping Caleb organize rallies. Caleb's latest painting, a portrait of Sarah laughing with the boys, was projected on the courthouse wall, a silent plea for her freedom. Personal bonds held the boys together. Ethan and David found strength in quiet moments, rebuilding their trust. Caleb and Marcus planned a future together, dreaming of a world where they could love openly. Jamie and Alex shared a kiss after a rally, their connection a light in the darkness. But Sarah's health was a constant shadow. In the hospital, she fought pneumonia, her spirit unbroken but her body frail. The boys took turns at her bedside, reading her letters from supporters, their voices thick with emotion. "You made us whole," Caleb told her, tears falling. Sarah squeezed his hand, too weak to speak, but her eyes saying everything. Hargrove's desperation grew. His men harassed the boys openly. Now Lucas's apartment was ransacked. Noah was jumped outside a bar, and Jamie's guitar was smashed at a gig. But the attacks backfired, fueling public outrage. The private investigator, Maria, uncovered a final piece, a memo from Hargrove to Vance, outlining the fire as a mutual benefit. Rachel prepared to present it, knowing it could end the case or ignite a war. The judge, sensing the tide turning, ordered a review of all evidence. The boys felt hope for the first time, but fear lingered. The SUV appeared again, following Caleb and Marcus home. Noah, furious, wanted to confront the driver, but Ethan held him back. "We win in court," Ethan said, his voice steel. "For Sarah." As the 6th week closed, the boys stood outside the hospital, the memo in Rachel's hands their strongest weapon yet. The town was a battleground, split between those who believed in Sarah and those clinging to Hargrove's lies. The boys' love for Sarah, for each other, for who they were kept them fighting. But the final battle was coming, and it would test everything they had. The 7th week of the trial was a turning point. The air thick with anticipation as the courtroom filled with supporters and skeptics. Sarah's hospital room, just miles away, was a quiet anchor for the boys. Her weakening pulse a reminder of what they could lose. They were close to victory, but Hargrove's shadow loomed, his desperation making him unpredictable. Rachel presented the memo in court, her voice ringing with conviction. The document, signed by Hargrove, detailed the fire as a strategic move to secure insurance money and protect Vance's campaign. The prosecution scrambled, claiming it was forged, but Maria's forensic analysis proved its authenticity. The judge's face tightened. Vance's influence was strong, but the evidence was stronger. Spectators gasped as Rachel connected the dots: Hargrove's fraud, Vance's complicity, and Sarah's framing as a scapegoat for their greed. Lena's latest article, published that morning, was a dagger to Hargrove's empire. It exposed Vance's campaign funds as a front for Hargrove's payouts, with names and dates that matched the memo. The story went viral, with national news outlets interviewing Caleb about his art and Jamie about his music. The boys' story of love, resilience, and defiance became a rallying cry. Protesters outside the courthouse chanted Sarah's name, their signs now joined by rainbow flags. A nod to Ethan, Caleb, and Jamie's courage in coming out. The boys faced relentless attacks. Ethan's rebuilt garage was targeted again, paint cans thrown through the windows. Lucas found a threatening note in his mailbox: "Stop or you're next." Caleb and Marcus's studio was raided, paintings slashed. But Caleb salvaged what he could, vowing to keep creating. Noah, bruised from his bar fight, stayed close to Lucas, his protective instincts flaring. Jamie and Alex faced a crowd of hecklers at a rally, but Alex stood firm, his hand in Jamie's, their defiance a mirror of Sarah's. Sarah's condition stabilized, but she was still weak. The boys brought her photos from the rallies, showing the town's growing support. "You did this," she whispered, her voice hoarse but proud. Ethan broke down, promising to bring her home. Lucas, ever practical, coordinated with the hospital to ensure her care, while Noah and Jamie planned a vigil outside, their candles a beacon of hope. Maria uncovered one last piece, a security tape from the warehouse, thought destroyed, showing Hargrove's fixer near the site the night of the fire. The tape was grainy, but Rachel argued it corroborated the memo. The judge ordered Hargrove and Vance to testify, a move that sent shockwaves through the town. Hargrove took the stand, his charm faltering as Rachel grilled him. He denied everything, but his sweat and stammers betrayed him. Vance, colder, deflected questions, but her aide's earlier testimony tied her to the fixer. The boys' bonds deepened. Ethan and David planned a future together, dreaming of a quiet life once Sarah was free. Caleb and Marcus began repairing the studio, their love a quiet strength. Jamie wrote a new song for Sarah and performed it at the vigil, his voice carrying over the candlelit crowd. Alex joined him, their harmony a promise of better days. But danger closed in. The SUV rammed Noah's truck one night, forcing him off the road. He escaped unharmed but shaken, telling only Ethan. Maria warned that Hargrove's men were planning something bigger, a final move to silence them. The boys met in secret, Rachel urging caution but promising to push for a verdict. "We're close," she said, "but stay safe." As the 7th week ended, the boys stood at Sarah's bedside, the memo and taped their last hope. The town was divided, the courtroom a battleground, and Hargrove's desperation was a ticking bomb. Ethan spoke for them all. "We're her sons. We finished this." The fight for Sarah's life was also a fight for their truth, and they were ready to face whatever came next. The 8th week of the trial dawned with a tense calm, the courtroom a crucible where Sarah's fate would be decided. The boys stood together, their hearts pounding but their resolve unbreakable, as the truth they'd fought for faced its final test. Sarah, still in the hospital, was their beacon, her love the fire that had carried them this far. Rachel delivered a closing argument that silenced the room. She wove the memo, the security tape, Bill's testimony, and the USB drive into a narrative of greed and betrayal. Sarah Cole didn't burn that warehouse, she said, her voice steady. She built a family, against all odds, and that's what they wanted to destroy. She pointed to Hargrove, then Vance, their faces pale. The boys' story: 5 abandoned kids, 3 openly gay, raised by a woman who loved them fiercely, was laid bare, a testament to resilience. The jury listened, their faces unreadable, but their eyes locked on the boys in the front row. Outside, the town was a storm. Protesters, now thousands strong, filled the streets, their signs and rainbow flags a sea of support. Caleb's mural, restored, was projected across the courthouse, its image of Sarah and the boys a symbol of hope. Jamie's song for Sarah played on local radio, its lyrics a call for justice. Lena's final article, published that morning, detailed Vance's resignation under pressure, her career crumbling as Hargrove's empire teetered. The Free Sarah movement had grown beyond Tennessee, with strangers sending letters of support, their words read to Sarah by Lucas at her bedside. The attacks didn't stop. Ethan and David were followed home, their tires slashed. Lucas found his apartment door jimmied, though nothing was taken. Noah, still shaken from the truck incident, kept watch over the others, his carpenter's hands ready to fight. Caleb and Marcus rebuilt their studio, painting over hate with new art. Jamie and Alex performed at a final rally, their voices rising above hecklers, their love a quiet rebellion. The SUV was ever present, but the boys refused to cower, their bond stronger than fear. Sarah's health hung by a thread. The boys spent every free moment with her, their laughter and tears filling the hospital room. She was too weak to speak much, but her eyes said everything: pride, love, hope. "You're my miracle," she whispered to Caleb, her hand gripping his. Lucas coordinated her care, his nursing skills a lifeline. Ethan promised her a homecoming. Noah vowed to build her a new porch. And Jamie sang softly, his guitar a lullaby. The jury deliberated for 2 agonizing days. The boys waited outside the courthouse, hands clasped, their lives on hold. Ethan spoke of David's support, Caleb of Marcus's strength, Jamie of Alex's courage. They were more than brothers now, they were a family forged in fire. Their identities as gay men part of the story, but not the whole. Sarah had taught them that love was their strength, no matter who they loved. The verdict came at dusk. The courtroom fell silent as the jury foreman stood. "Not guilty," he said, and the room erupted. The boys collapsed into each other, tears streaming as they hugged. Rachel smiled, exhausted but triumphant. Hargrove was arrested on fraud and conspiracy charges. Vance's career in ruins. The town, once divided, began to heal, its people rethinking their prejudices. Sarah was released from the hospital a week later, frail but alive. The boys brought her home to the farmhouse, its walls worn but warm. They rebuilt the porch together, Noah's hammer steady, Caleb's paintbrush adding color. Jamie played his guitar, Alex at his side. Ethan and David planned a small wedding. Lucas studied again, his heart lighter. The town wasn't perfect, but it was changing. The boys' courage a spark for others. Years later, Sarah sat on that porch, surrounded by her boys, their partners, and a new generation of foster kids. The stars above echoed Caleb's mural, a reminder of their fight. They'd faced hate, loss, and a system that tried to break them. But love had won, not just Sarah's, but theirs, for each other and for who they were. The world wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and they'd earned every moment of it.